Nebraska State Senator Amanda McGill is trying to pass legislation in the state that would ban contracts that would force the state to pay for empty cells in private prisons. Now, with private prisons, usually they have the state sign contracts with them that guarantees that they have a certain occupancy rate. So states like Arizona guarantee that the private prison has a 100% occupancy rate. So, of course, that forces law enforcement and politicians to make sure that they criminalize as much behavior as possible, throw as many people into prison as possible, right? But what happens is, if they have an empty cell, the state still has to pay for that empty cell. By the way, this is great private industry, right?
Yeah.
Where you rely on taxpayer money in order to run and operate your facility.
And they don't want to waste, the government doesn't want to waste taxpayer money, so they're like, we might as well fill up those cells, as you were referring to.
Exactly.
And then you're arresting people when you're not necessarily supposed to.
Yeah.
Gives all the wrong incentives. And second of all, what happened to free market this, that, and the other thing? It's not a government handout?
This is exactly a government handout. So these are known as lockup quotas as well. And I mean, states like Colorado have lost like $2 million in a single year as a result of making sure that the private prison meets its lockup quota. Such quotas appear in 2/3 of all prison privatization contracts. And I love that this state senator is fighting back against it. And she is going to run for higher office. So I think this is what she's using to like make a name for herself. But this is the kind of legislation that should be passed federally. This kind of behavior or this kind of activity should be completely illegal. You shouldn't have lockup quotas at prisons.
Yeah, we're doing this to our own citizens, man. We're paying for our own freedoms to be taken away from us. In this case, literally. Locking up people that don't need to be locked up and overpaying while we're doing it, right? So there are some functions that are supposed to be core government functions. When your house is on fire, we can't have the fire department go in and say, well, did you pay or did you not pay? If you didn't pay a private fire corporation, I'm not going to put out the fire, because then the fire will spread to other houses, okay? It's a public disaster if that happens. We can't have the cops being privatized and say, oh, well, you got mugged. Well, sorry, you didn't pay for the private ABC cops, so he can mug you, he can rape you, he can kill you. It's a core government function. Locking people up and taking away their liberty is as core a government function as there is. You can't outsource that and privatize that and have people turn a profit off of that. What's going to happen? This is going to happen, where you lock up people you don't need to and you waste taxpayer money. You do. And just to give you a sense of how much money we spend on locking people away, America spends 2.5 times more per prisoner as it does per student in the public school system. What happened? I thought privatizing it was supposed to lower costs. It does not, obviously. It doesn't lower costs. No. It raises costs. And what winds up happening is those companies then do their legal bribes to politicians, they grease them, and the politicians then give them those contracts, and they say, cost schmoss, don't worry about that, as long as you keep contributing to my campaign. Conservatives, if you hate wasting taxpayer money and you hate crony capitalism, you should hate these private prisons.